The massive alien ship hung in the sky above Seoul like a silver plate. It had been there for 3 days. News reports called it peaceful. The ship had sent messages saying they came to study Earth's animals, especially birds. Dr. Tae-won Kim looked up at the ship from his office window at Seoul National University. As Korea's top bird expert, the government had asked him to meet the aliens. He felt both excited and nervous. "They're landing in 1 hour," said Dr. Hae-Nul Park, walking into his office with 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Tae-won. "Are you ready?" Tae-won sipped the hot coffee. "I think so. Did you finish the presentation about our local birds?" "Yes, I focused on the harmless ones, pigeons, sparrows, and songbirds. The government thinks we should start with the cute birds first." Tae-won nodded. "Smart move." The landing site was a large field on the university grounds. Police kept crowds of people far back. Tae-won and Hae-Nul stood with university officials and government representatives. Everyone wore their best clothes. At exactly noon, a smaller ship broke off from the main vessel and flew down. It made no sound as it landed on the grass. The air felt charged with electricity. A door opened on the side of the ship. 3 tall figures stepped out. The aliens had blue-gray skin that shimmered in the sunlight. They stood on 2 legs but were much taller than humans. Their heads were round with 4 eyes, 2 large ones and 2 smaller ones above them. They had no visible nose, just slits where a human nose would be. Their mouths were small and straight. The tallest alien stepped forward. It wore a silver suit with strange symbols on the chest. "I am Chief Researcher Dolzik," the alien said through a small device hanging from its neck. The voice sounded flat but clear. "We thank you for welcoming us to your world." Tae-won bowed slightly. "Welcome to Earth. I am Dr. Kim Tae-won, and this is Dr. Park Hae-Nul. We are bird researchers." Dolzik's 4 eyes blinked at different times. "Excellent. In our studies of your planet, we have found your birds most fascinating. We believe they represent the gentle beauty of your world." Hae-Nul and Tae-won exchanged quick glances. If only the aliens knew about eagles and hawks, they might not think birds were so gentle. "We have prepared a tour of our research facility," Tae-won said. "We can show you some of our local birds." The aliens followed the humans to the university's Bird Research Center. Inside, they had set up displays of common Korean birds. The second alien, who introduced itself as Science Officer Velnak, stopped at a cage of small finches. "These creatures have such delicate forms," it said. "On our world, no flying animals have such soft features or beautiful songs." The third alien was taking samples of the air and making notes on a clear tablet. "The oxygen content here allows for interesting adaptations," it said. "These birds have developed such efficient respiratory systems." Tae-won led them to the main research room, where Hae-Nul started a presentation on the screen. "Here is our classification of common birds," she explained, showing pictures of sparrows, robins, and doves. "These birds eat seeds, fruits, and small insects." The aliens watched with all 4 eyes wide. They seemed truly amazed by even these common birds. "Our initial scans were correct," said Dolzik to the other aliens. "These are Class 3 aesthetically pleasing atmospheric fauna, perfect symbols of peace and beauty." Tae-won almost said something about predatory birds but stopped himself. The government had been clear. Show the aliens Earth's gentle side first. There would be time later to explain the full complexity of Earth's wildlife. "Tomorrow," Tae-won said, "we can show you more birds in their natural settings." Dolzik made a gesture that might have been a smile. "We look forward to documenting all of your planet's peaceful avian species." Hae-Nul caught Tae-won's eye again. Both knew that the aliens had much to learn about Earth's not-so-peaceful birds. 1 week after the aliens arrived, they expanded their bird research. Dolzik wanted to see birds in different places around Korea. The university assigned a young researcher named Ki-ho Lee to help with the field trips. Kai-ho was excited to work with aliens. He had studied birds for only 2 years, but knew many good spots to find different species. Today we will visit the mountains, Kehoe told the aliens as they boarded a large van. Many birds live in forests that you haven't seen yet. Dolzik and the 2 other aliens sat awkwardly in the van seats. They were too tall, and their heads almost touched the roof. Our research is going well, Dolzik said. We have documented 43 species of birds so far. All of them fit our peaceful category. Hanul, who sat in the front seat, looked at Taiwan with a small smile. They still hadn't shown the aliens any predatory birds. The van drove 2 hours to a mountain forest. When they arrived, Kehoe led everyone to a quiet trail. Walk softly, he whispered. Birds can hear very well. The aliens moved quietly, which surprised Kehoe. For such large beings, they made almost no sound when they walked. Soon, they heard birdsong from the trees. Kehoe pointed up. Look there, that's a Korean magpie. Very smart birds. The aliens watched the black and white bird hop from branch to branch. Velnak recorded everything on a small device. The colors are for mating display, asked the 3rd alien, who was called Scientist Meptor. Yes, said Kehoe. Males with the best colors get the best mates. They walked deeper into the forest. Kehoe showed them woodpeckers, thrushes, and small warblers. The aliens took samples of feathers they found on the ground and recorded all the bird songs. After lunch, Kehoe took them to a small pond. Wait quietly, he said. Something special might come. They stood still for 20 minutes. Then, with a flash of blue, a kingfisher dove into the water and came up with a small fish. For the first time, the aliens saw a bird catch prey. Dolzik stepped forward. This bird eats other creatures, he asked, sounding surprised. Yes, said Taiwan. Many birds eat fish, insects, or worms. Some eat fruit and seeds too. Dolzik made notes quickly. But they don't eat other birds, correct? Taiwan and Hainul looked at each other. Taiwan answered carefully. Most don't. The aliens seemed relieved and continued watching the kingfisher. It was beautiful, with bright blue feathers that shone in the sunlight. On the way back to Seoul, they saw a hawk flying high above the van. Kehoe pointed it out, but didn't explain what hawks eat. The government still wanted the aliens to learn slowly about Earth's more aggressive animals. Back at the university, the aliens worked late into the night. They were making a book they called the Gentle Avian Encyclopedia of Terra. They filled it with pictures and facts about all the birds they had seen. Velnak showed Taiwan their work. See how we organize by habitat. Forest birds, garden birds, city birds, all living in harmony. Taiwan nodded but felt uncomfortable. The aliens still didn't understand the full truth about birds. Later that evening, Dr. Ju-Won Choi called Taiwan on the phone. She was a marine biologist who worked on Jeju Island. I heard you're showing aliens our birds, she said. Why don't you bring them to my research station? We have many seabirds here. Taiwan thought for a moment. The government wanted to control what the aliens saw, but maybe it was time for them to learn more. That sounds good, he said. We'll come in 3 days. When he told the aliens about the trip to Jeju Island, they were very excited. Seabirds, said Dolzik. We have seen pictures of your gulls and puffins, such beautiful, peaceful creatures. Kehoe looked at Taiwan with raised eyebrows. They both knew that seagulls were not always peaceful. It was time for the aliens to learn the truth about Earth's birds. The ferry to Jeju Island moved slowly through the morning fog. Dr. Ju-Won Choi stood at the rail, watching seabirds fly alongside the boat. The 3 aliens stood next to her, all 4 of their eyes following each bird with great interest. Those are common terns, Ju-Won explained. They catch small fish from the water. Dolzik recorded this information. We have seen birds catch fish before. It is a beautiful skill. Taiwan, Hainul, and Kehoe stood a few steps away, talking quietly. Should we warn them about what they might see? Hainul asked. Taiwan shook his head. The government still wants us to be careful. Let them learn slowly. Kaiho pointed to the sky. Look there. That's a black-tailed gull. Very common around here. The large gull circled the boat, then dove down to snatch a piece of bread that someone had thrown into the water. Its movements were quick and aggressive. Meptor, the third alien, watched the gull with all four eyes wide open. That bird seems different from others we have seen. More forceful. Ju-1 nodded. Gulls are survivors. They eat almost anything. The ferry arrived at Jeju Island by noon. Ju-1 drove everyone to her research station on the east coast. The building sat on a cliff overlooking the sea. Many birds flew around the rocky shore below. My team studies seabirds and their habits, Ju-1 explained as she showed the aliens around the station. We have been watching them for 10 years. The research station had a large room with windows facing the ocean. Maps on the walls showed where different birds lived. Glass cases displayed feathers, nests, and eggs. Tonight I will show you our research, Ju-1 said. But now you should rest after the journey. While the aliens settled into their rooms, the human researchers met in the kitchen. They still think all birds are gentle and peaceful, Taiwan told Ju-1. They've been making a book called The Gentle Avian Encyclopedia of Terra. Ju-1 laughed. Then they haven't seen what gulls can really do. Should we show them? Kaiho asked. I think it's time, Ju-1 said. They came to learn about Earth's birds. They should know the truth. That evening after dinner, Ju-1 gave a presentation about seabirds. She showed pictures of many species that lived around Jeju Island. Here we have puffins, terns, cormorants, and several types of gulls, she explained. The aliens watched with great interest. Velnak asked many questions about how the birds found food and built nests. Then Ju-1 showed a picture of a great black-backed gull, the largest gull species. This one is not from Korea, but we sometimes see them here. They are the largest gulls in the world. They eat fish, asked Dolzik. They eat fish, yes, Ju-1 said carefully. But they also eat other things. Plants, insects, asked Meptor. Ju-1 looked at Taiwan. He nodded slightly. Sometimes, Ju-1 said, they eat other birds. The room became very quiet. The aliens stared at her. Other birds, Dolzik finally said. You mean after the birds are dead? No, Ju-1 said. They hunt them. They catch smaller birds and eat them, sometimes while the smaller birds are still alive. The aliens looked at each other. Their skin seemed to change color slightly, becoming a paler blue-gray. This cannot be correct, said Velnak. Birds are gentle creatures. They are symbols of peace. Not all birds, Kaiho said. Some birds are predators. Dolzik stood up. We need to see evidence of this claim. It goes against all our research. Tomorrow, Ju-1 promised, I will show you. That night, the aliens stayed up late, talking among themselves. The humans could hear their voices from down the hall, speaking their strange language quickly and with high tones. They sound upset, Hanuel said. Their whole idea about Earth's birds is changing, Taiwan replied. It must be hard for them. Outside, the sound of gulls crying filled the night air. Their calls seemed to grow louder as darkness fell, harsh and wild. Morning came with clear skies and strong winds. Perfect weather for seabirds to hunt. Ju-1 led everyone to a rocky area on the cliff. Her research assistant, Su Jin-yoon, was already there with cameras and equipment. I set up everything, Dr. Choi, Su Jin said. There's a lot of bird activity today. Ju-1 introduced Su Jin to the aliens. Su Jin has been watching the great black-backed gull for 2 months. It returned to this area last week. Su Jin nodded. It likes to hunt here because smaller birds nest in those rocks. The aliens looked at each other with doubt in their 4 eyes. Dolzik's skin had not returned to its normal color. It remained pale blue-gray. "We will observe," Dolzik said, "but we find it hard to believe that a bird would eat another bird." Ju-1 handed everyone binoculars. "Watch and see for yourselves." They sat on the rocks, hidden by a small wall. Below them was a small beach where many birds gathered. Some washed in the water. Others picked at small creatures in the sand. There were terns, sandpipers, and small gulls down there. Su-Jin explained quietly. "They are all looking for food." An hour passed. The aliens took notes but looked bored. Tai-1 worried they would leave before seeing anything. Then Su-Jin tapped Ju-1's arm. "Look, there it is." A huge gull, much larger than the others, landed on a rock above the beach. It was mostly white with a black back and yellow beak. It sat very still, watching the smaller birds below. "That's the great black-backed gull," Ju-1 whispered. "Watch carefully." The big gull turned its head slowly, scanning the beach, its eyes fixed on a small sandpiper that had wandered away from the group. "It's hunting," Su-Jin whispered. The aliens leaned forward, all their eyes now focused on the scene. Suddenly, the giant gull spread its wings and dropped from the rock. It moved with surprising speed. Before anyone could blink, it landed on the small sandpiper. The sandpiper cried out, but the sound was cut short. The large gull's beak struck quickly. "It's killing the small bird," gasped Velnak. But what happened next shocked the aliens even more. The gull didn't just kill the sandpiper, it began to eat it, tearing off pieces while the smaller bird was still moving. Neptor made a strange sound and turned away. Dolzik's skin turned almost white. "It's eating the bird alive," Dolzik said in a shaking voice. This contradicts all our research." Other gulls noticed and flew closer, hoping to steal some food. The great black-backed gull screamed at them and spread its wings to protect its meal. "They will fight over food," Ju-1 explained. "Gulls are very aggressive." Dolzik couldn't take his eyes off the scene. "We have been wrong. Earth's birds are not all gentle creatures." They watched as the gull finished its meal. It left nothing but a few feathers blowing in the wind. Then it cleaned its beak on the rocks and flew away, looking for more prey. Velnak was making notes faster than ever. "We must update our classification system. These gulls are predators, not peaceful birds." "Many birds are predators," Tai-1 said. "Eagles, hawks, owls, and falcons all hunt other animals. Some, like this gull, hunt other birds." Dolzik turned to face the humans. "Why didn't you tell us this from the beginning?" Hanul answered honestly. "We were told to show you Earth's gentle side first, but we always planned to show you the full truth." The aliens stood in silence, watching the beach where other birds now kept their distance from larger gulls. "Our whole study must be redone," said Dolzik finally. "We need to learn more about these predator birds." As they walked back to the research station, the aliens looked up at every bird with new eyes. Their view of Earth had changed forever. "On our planet," Velnak said quietly, "all flying creatures eat only plants. We have nothing like your gulls." "Perhaps that's why Earth fascinated you," Kehoe suggested. "Our world is full of surprises." Dolzik nodded slowly. "Yes, and I fear we have only begun to discover them." Back at the research station, the aliens sat in silence. Their data tablets lay untouched on the table. Outside, the sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky orange and red. "We must start over," Dolzik finally said. "Our understanding of Earth birds was wrong." Tai-1 nodded. "There are many types of birds. Some are gentle, like the songbirds we showed you first. Others are hunters." Hanul opened her laptop. "Let me show you more examples." The aliens gathered around the screen. Hanul showed them videos of eagles catching fish, hawks hunting mice, and owls swooping down on rabbits at night. "These are all birds," she explained. "They all have feathers, wings, and beaks, but they eat different foods and live different lives." Velnak's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he watched. On our world, all flying creatures eat only plants or tiny water animals. None hunt like this. Earth has over 10,000 bird species, Ta One said. They fill many roles in nature. Just then, a young man walked into the room carrying a laptop. He had messy hair and glasses. This is Dahyun Kang, Ju One said. He studies the most dangerous birds on Earth. Dahyun bowed to the aliens. I heard you were interested in birds that don't match your peaceful image. Show them, Ju One said. Dahyun opened his laptop and played a video of a large bird with a blue neck. It looked like it had black hair and a horn on its head. This is a cassowary, he explained. It lives in Australia. It can't fly, but it can kill humans with its feet. The video showed the cassowary attacking a fence, kicking with powerful legs. Its feet had long, sharp claws. Kill humans. Meptur's skin turned almost white. Birds can kill humans. Only a few species, Dahyun said. And it's rare. But yes, some birds are dangerous. He showed more videos of aggressive birds, a golden eagle hunting a young deer, an ostrich chasing a person, and shrikes impaling their prey on thorns. Shrikes catch insects and small animals, then put them on sharp thorns to save for later, Dahyun explained. Some people call them butcher birds. Dolzik stood up and walked to the window. Outside, gulls were flying in the darkening sky. We made a serious mistake, he said. We assumed all birds were like the gentle ones we saw first. We must redo our entire study. Birds evolved from dinosaurs, Kehoe added. Some still have those hunting instincts. Dinosaurs. Velnak looked confused. The giant creatures that died out. Yes, said Kehoe. Modern birds are their descendants. This new information seemed to shock the aliens even more. They talked among themselves in their own language, making quick, sharp sounds. Finally, Dolzik turned to the humans. We need to create a new classification system for your birds. Can you help us understand the different types of bird behaviors? Of course, Ta One said. That's why we're here. They worked late into the night. The aliens threw away their old notes and started fresh. They created new categories: plant eaters, insect eaters, fish hunters, meat eaters, and bird eaters. Put the gulls in both fish hunters and bird eaters, Ju One suggested. Most gulls eat fish, but some, like the great black-backed gull, also eat other birds. As they worked, Dolzik seemed troubled. If we were so wrong about your birds, what else have we misunderstood about Earth? Tai One thought about this. Maybe you should see Earth as it really is, a place with both gentleness and harshness. Our animals, including humans, have had to adapt to survive. Dolzik looked at him with all four eyes. Yes, perhaps this is why your species has survived so long. You understand both sides of nature. In the morning, the aliens announced they wanted to study gulls more closely. We will focus our research on these complex birds, Velnak said. They seem to represent the surprising nature of your planet. Ju One smiled. Then you've come to the right place. Jeju Island has many gull species to study. As they prepared for a day of field research, Dolzik looked at the humans differently now. With more respect, and perhaps a little caution too. The next morning started early. Ju One led everyone to a different part of the coast where many gulls nested. They climbed down a narrow path to a small beach hidden between tall rocks. This is one of our main study areas, Ju One explained. Different gull species live here together. A woman was already there, taking notes and photos. She had short hair and wore a jacket with many pockets. This is Dr. Minji Kwan, Ju One said. She is our bird behavior expert. Minji bowed to the aliens. Welcome to our gull colony. I've been studying these birds for 5 years. The beach was loud with bird calls. Hundreds of gulls sat on nests, flew overhead, or walked on the sand. Some were large with yellow beaks. Others were smaller with black heads. There are 4 gull species here, Minji explained. They all look different, and have different hunting styles. The aliens set up their equipment. They seemed more serious now, less excited than before. Seeing the gull kill another bird had changed them. "Watch that large gull there." Minji pointed to a big gull standing on a rock. "It's waiting for smaller birds to catch fish. Then it will attack them and steal their food." Sure enough, when a small gull caught a fish, the larger one flew down and chased it until it dropped the fish. The big gull quickly grabbed the free meal. "They steal food?" Velnak asked, recording everything. "Yes," Minji said. "We call it kleptoparasitism, stealing food from other birds." They watched for hours as the gulls showed more surprising behaviors. Some gulls dropped shellfish on rocks to break them open. Others worked together to separate a weak bird from its group. "They hunt in teams sometimes," Minji explained, "like wolves or lions." Neptor looked shocked. "They show group hunting strategies. This suggests high intelligence." "Gulls are very smart," Minji agreed. "They can solve problems and remember human faces. If you bother a gull, it will remember you and attack you later." The aliens wrote this down quickly. Their view of birds was changing by the minute. "Do you know why birds evolved these behaviors?" Dolzik asked. Minji nodded. "Life on Earth is competitive. Animals must find ways to survive. Some become peaceful plant eaters. Others become hunters. Gulls are successful because they can do both. They eat plants, trash, fish, and sometimes other birds." "They adapt," said Velnak. "Exactly," Minji said. "Species that can't adapt die out." Around noon, they saw something that surprised even the human researchers. 3 large gulls attacked a tired-looking seabird that had just landed on the beach. "That bird is sick or injured," Minji said quietly. "The gulls can tell." The gulls surrounded the weak bird. One distracted it from the front while the others attacked from behind. Within minutes, they had killed it and were tearing it apart. "They worked together perfectly," Kehoe said, "like they planned it." Dolzik was recording everything. "This changes our understanding of Earth birds completely. They're not just beautiful flying creatures. They're survivors who will do anything to live." Minji nodded. "All animals on Earth are like that. Even the beautiful ones can be fierce when they need to be." Taiwan looked at the aliens. "Does this make you see Earth differently?" "Yes," said Dolzik slowly. "Your world is more complex than we thought. Beauty and danger exist side by side." As they watched, more gulls gathered around the kill, fighting over scraps. Their calls were loud and harsh. "I'm beginning to see parallels," Dolzik said, turning to look at Taiwan. "Your humans can seem peaceful and friendly, like the small birds we first saw. But perhaps you also have the gull's ability to be aggressive when needed." Taiwan didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "All Earth creatures find ways to survive. Humans are no different." Velnak made more notes. "This could explain why your species has been so successful on this planet. You are adaptable, like the gulls." The aliens watched the gulls with new respect. These birds were not just pretty creatures. They were tough survivors in a hard world. "Tomorrow," said Juwon, "we should tell our government contact about the aliens' new understanding." Taiwan nodded. This might change how Earth and the aliens work together in the future. The next day, government officials arrived at the research station. They came in black cars with tinted windows. The head official was a serious man named Jinwoo Ba. He was Korea's top diplomat for alien relations. Jinwoo met with everyone in the main conference room. He wore an expensive suit and spoke in a calm voice. "I understand there have been some revelations," he said, looking at the aliens. Dolzik nodded. "Yes, we have learned that Earth birds are not all peaceful creatures. Some, like your gulls, are aggressive hunters." Jinwoo glanced at Taiwan. "Was this discovery troubling to you?" "At first, yes," Dolzik admitted. "Our whole understanding of Earth was based on incomplete information. But now we see your world more clearly." Jinwu sat down at the table. And how does this change your view of Earth, of humans? The room became quiet. Everyone waited for Dolzik's answer. We see parallels, Dolzik said after a moment. Your gulls appear friendly and social, living in large groups. But they can become fierce hunters when needed. We wonder if humans are similar. Jinwu's face showed no emotion. An interesting comparison. Our reports to our homeworld have changed. Velmak added. We initially described Earth as a planet of gentle beauty. Now we describe it as a complex ecosystem where beauty and danger exist together. Jinwu nodded slowly. That is more accurate. Taiwan spoke up. The aliens have been studying gull behavior closely. They've seen how gulls adapt to different situations. Yes, said Dolzik. Your gulls eat plants when available, steal food when possible, and hunt when necessary. They use different strategies to survive. Jinwu seemed to think about this. And you see humans the same way. We see similarities. Dolzik said carefully. Humans present themselves as peaceful, but we suspect you can be fierce when threatened. Like the gulls. Jinwu smiled slightly. A fair assessment. He turned to his assistant and whispered something. The assistant nodded and left the room. Our leaders are interested in forming stronger ties with your people, Jinwu told the aliens. Trade agreements, knowledge exchange, perhaps even travel between our worlds someday. Our leaders have similar interests, said Dolzik, but we must understand each other first. Agreed, Jinwu said. Understanding is critical. The assistant returned with a folder and handed it to Jinwu. He opened it and pushed some papers across the table to Dolzik. These are reports about human history, Jinwu explained. Both our peaceful achievements and our conflicts. If you truly want to understand humans, you should know both sides of our nature. Dolzik looked at the papers. Thank you for this honesty. Jinwu stood up. I suggest we continue our discussions in Seoul. The president wishes to meet with you to discuss future relations. Later, as they packed their equipment, the aliens talked with the human researchers. Your diplomat was very direct, Meptor said to Taiwan. He did not try to hide your species' aggressive potential. No point hiding it, Taiwan replied. You would discover it eventually, like you discovered the gulls. Dolzik was looking out the window at the ocean. A group of gulls flew over the waves, working together to find food. We have been too simple in our thinking, Dolzik said. We thought peaceful meant weak. But your gulls are not weak. They are strong because they can be both peaceful and aggressive as needed. Hanul joined them at the window. Humans are the same. We prefer peace, but we can fight if we must. This makes your species more interesting to us, Velnak admitted. More complex. The alien ship arrived to take everyone back to Seoul. As they boarded, Dolzik looked back at the coast one last time. The gulls have taught us an important lesson, he said. Never judge a species by its appearance alone. That's a good lesson for all of us, said Kaio. As the ship lifted off, Jinwu made a phone call to his superiors. The aliens now understand we are not just peaceful creatures, he reported. They respect us more for it. I believe this will lead to more balanced negotiations. In the sky above, a gull watched the ship leave. Then it turned and dove into the water, catching a fish with perfect precision, beautiful and deadly at the same time. 1 week later, a big meeting was planned at a fancy hotel by the sea near Busan. Important people from many countries came to meet the aliens. They would talk about trade, science, and friendship between Earth and the aliens' world. The hotel had large windows facing the ocean. Outside, seagulls flew around, looking for food. The aliens watched them with new interest. Those are herring gulls, Taiwan told Dolzik as they waited for the meeting to start. Common along this coast. Dolzik nodded. We have studied them. Aggressive food stealers, but not usually bird eaters like the great black-backed gull. Jinwu entered the room with a group of diplomats. "The meeting will begin in 10 minutes, he announced. "Please take your seats." The large meeting room had a table shaped like a U, flowers and small statues of birds decorated the table. Servers brought drinks and small foods for everyone. The aliens sat at one end of the U. Human diplomats from Korea, America, China, and other countries sat along the sides. Taiwan, Hanul, and Kehoe sat behind the aliens as advisors. Jinwoo stood to welcome everyone. "Today marks a historic moment in Earth's history. We begin formal talks with our friends from—" A loud crash interrupted him. Everyone turned to look. A seagull had hit one of the large windows. It was dazed but not hurt. It flapped around on the balcony outside. "Just a bird," Jinwoo said with a small smile. "Please." Another crash, then another. 3 more gulls hit the windows. They seemed confused by the clear glass. "Close the curtains," someone said. But before anyone could move, a server opened a balcony door to check on the birds. In that moment, 5 gulls flew into the room. The meeting erupted in chaos. The gulls, suddenly finding themselves inside with food everywhere, went crazy. They dove at the small sandwiches and cakes on the table. They knocked over water glasses. They screamed their harsh calls, which echoed in the large room. Human diplomats ducked under the table or ran for the doors. Papers flew everywhere. One gull grabbed a small cake and another gull chased it, knocking over a flower vase. But in the middle of this chaos, Jinwoo remained standing. He watched the scene with calm eyes. And the aliens didn't move either. They observed everything with all 4 of their eyes wide open. A large gull landed in front of Jinwoo and stole a sandwich right from his plate. Instead of getting angry, Jinwoo laughed. "It seems our local wildlife wants to join the discussions," he said loudly so everyone could hear. This broke the tension. The human diplomats began to laugh too. Hotel staff opened all the doors and windows, and slowly the gulls flew back outside with their stolen food. Within 15 minutes, the room was clean again. People returned to their seats, straightening their clothes and sharing stories about what just happened. "I apologize for the interruption," Jinwoo said. "Nature can be unpredictable." But Dolzik raised a hand. "No apology needed. This was educational." "Educational?" asked an American diplomat, still brushing feathers off his suit. "Yes," said Dolzik. "We saw how humans handle unexpected problems. You did not panic. You adapted. You even found humor in the situation." Jinwoo smiled. "Life on Earth requires flexibility." "Like the gulls," said Velnak. "They saw an opportunity and took it. They adapted to the situation." "And so did we," said Jinwoo. The meeting continued without further bird interruptions. Important agreements were discussed. The aliens offered to share some of their technology. Humans offered to share Earth's art, music, and food. During a break, Taiwan found Dolzik standing at the window, watching the gulls outside. "What are you thinking?" Taiwan asked. "I'm thinking that we have much to learn from Earth," Dolzik replied, "both from its creatures and its people." "The gull incident could have ruined the meeting," Taiwan said. But Jinwoo turned it into something positive. "Yes," said Dolzik. "That ability to adapt to problems. That is what we find most interesting about humans now." Outside, the gulls continued to soar and dive, masters of their world, both beautiful and fierce. 1 month after their arrival on Earth, the aliens prepared to return to their home planet. Their ship waited high above in Earth's orbit. A small shuttle would take them up from Seoul National University, the same place where they had first landed. Taiwan, Hanul, Kaiho, Juwon, and Jinwoo gathered to say goodbye. Even Minji and Sujin had come from Jeju Island for the event. They stood in a half-circle as the aliens packed their equipment. "Your visit has changed how we see ourselves," Jinwoo said to Dolzik. "We've learned to look at our world through new eyes. Dolzik's skin had returned to its normal blue-gray color, and you have changed how we see the universe. We came thinking we understood your world. We were wrong. The aliens had completed their study of Earth's birds. They had traveled to many countries, seen eagles in America, penguins in Antarctica, and parrots in Brazil. But they always came back to studying gulls. "What will you tell your people about Earth?" asked Tawan. "The truth," said Dolzik, "that Earth is a planet of beautiful contradictions. Your birds can be both gentle and fierce. Your oceans can be both calm and violent. And your people?" "Yes," Jinmu asked. "Your people are the most interesting contradiction of all," Dolzik said. "You create art and music that move even our alien hearts. Yet you can be as tough as your gulls when needed." Velnak stepped forward with a small silver box. "We have prepared a gift for Earth." Jinwu accepted the box and opened it. Inside was a clear crystal cube. When he lifted it, light passed through it and projected a moving 3D image in the air, a perfect recreation of a seagull in flight. "It is made from materials from our world," Velnak explained. "It will last for 1,000 years." "Thank you," Jinwu said, clearly moved by the gift. "We have something for you as well." Taiwan handed Dolzik a large book bound in blue cloth. The alien opened it carefully. It was a handmade book of Earth's birds. Each page showed beautiful paintings of different species. The first pages showed gentle songbirds. The middle showed hunters like eagles and falcons. The final pages showed gulls in all their complex beauty. "Dr. Kim created this himself," Hainul explained. "He wanted you to remember what you learned here." Dolzik ran a long finger over the pages. "We will treasure this." The time for departure came. The aliens gathered their samples and equipment. The small shuttle landed on the field, ready to take them up to their main ship. Before boarding, Dolzik turned to the humans one last time. "Our official report now classifies Earth as a high-adaptation environment where life forms show remarkable flexibility. We recommend approaching your people with respect and caution, as equals, not as simple creatures to be studied." "That seems fair," Jinwu said with a smile. Meptor handed Tawan a small device. "This contains all our research. We want you to have it." "Thank you," Tawan said. "Will you visit Earth again?" "Yes," said Dolzik. "There is much more to learn. Next time, we will come better prepared for Earth's surprises." The alien